Hello everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our webinar on 3 tactics to optimize your mobile app tracking. We're extremely excited to present you today some of the tactics that will help you take your mobile app tracking to a next level. So let me introduce you to the speaker of our webinar. I have with me Vishal Chawla. Vishal is the technical account manager here at Tatvic, and Vishal has a strong background in building websites, apps, and analytics, and he is the go-to person here to give advice on the mobile app analytics. I am Bonis Satani, the host today, and I will be sort of just listening to Vishal and understanding how we can improve uh, the mobile app analytics. Without spending much of my time, I would just like to hand over the presentation to Vishal so that you can all guide us.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Vishal here. So the agenda for today's webinar is getting started with mobile app tracking using GA. Second, campaign tracking. Third, mobile app uninstallation tracking. Next, integrating Google Analytics with Play Store. And last, things to check while implementing mobile app tracking. Moving on with the first point. So as you are aware, India's mobile app industry is on the rise. There are 9 billion apps which are going to be downloaded in the year 2015. There has been a significant rise in the smartphone industry, and around 250 million smartphones are going to be sold by the end of 2015. M-commerce is a leading booming industry which is going to be worth $19 billion industry by 2019. Okay, so here is an article from TechCrunch. Two important points need to be noted here. Firstly, India is among the top 3 countries in the world in terms of number of iOS and Android app downloads. Second, there has been a 30% increase in the number of app downloads in Q3 2014 compared to Q3 2013. So this is another announcement from e-commerce giants Flipkart and Myntra. Myntra is soon going to be only app, and Flipkart is also going to join the suit and just be app within 1 year. So this summarizes how mobile app industry is on a quick development. Next. So let's see, why should we do mobile app tracking? First, analyze the performance of various app downloads campaigns. So you might be running several campaigns in order to increase the number of app downloads for your app. With mobile app tracking, you can analyze the performance of these campaigns. Next, track e-commerce data. Okay, so now if your app is an e-commerce app, with the help of mobile app tracking, you can analyze which all products are sold very much from your app, which product categories are performing very well, what is the nature of transactions, for examples, how are transactions taking place from different countries, different age groups, and so on. Next, goal conversions. So let's say your app might have different goals. For example, increase in number of user signups, increase in newsletter subscriptions, increase in number of different downloads, resources downloads. These all can be your major goals, and then these can be easily tracked using mobile app tracking. Next point, getting counters for crucial events through event tracking. So let's say you might be interested in knowing how many times a user enters promotional code while doing a transaction from your app, or how many times a user selects cash on delivery option, and so on. If you want to get the counters of these events, you can easily do so using mobile app tracking. Next, tracking user journey across devices. So it is very much possible that some of your users start their journey through a mobile device and then eventually land on to a tablet device and perform the transaction. Using mobile app tracking, you can very well know how a user is performing his or her journey through your app. Crash and exception reporting. For apps, there might be possible that your app is generating exceptions or errors in some particular scenarios. Through mobile app tracking, you can easily log these exception messages and can later on analyze them to improve the quality of your apps. Track uninstalls. One important point to be noted for mobile app tracking is uninstalls. Many a times users just focus on increasing the number of app installs, app downloads without being interested in how it eventually leads to uninstall. So it is as important to track uninstalls as it is to track installs. You should know what is the general lifespan of your app. Through uninstall tracking, you get an information on this. Okay, now that we have understood about mobile app tracking, let's try and understand how this can be done using Google Analytics. To implement mobile app tracking for using Google Analytics, there are two approaches possible. First is implementation from within the app, and second, implementation via Google Tag Manager. So first approach, implementation from within the app. So the steps involved here are install a native GA library for your app. Currently, two SDKs are available, one for iOS and second for Android. So for both these platforms, you can easily download their native SDKs and start implementing Google Analytics for your app. Next step, initialize tracker. So tracker is nothing but an object which can take data from your app and then pass it on to GA in terms of different type of calls. So coming to the calls, once we have a tracker object initialized, we can fire different GA calls. These GA calls could be your screen views, your custom events, and then for e-commerce, it could be product impressions, tracking transactions, refunds, checkout steps, internal promotions, and so on. So this is the approach of implementing GA directly from your app. Coming on to the second approach is implementing GA via GTM. So the steps involved here are add Google Manager SDK to your project. So in comparison to the first approach wherein we have to add a native library, you have to add a GTM library to your project. Second, add default container file to your project. So once your GTM container is configured with all the required tags, macros, and rules, you need to download that container version and import it into your project. This version becomes the default version, and later on, as and when you publish more versions of your GTM container, these get automatically synced with your app by an interval of around 12 hours. That is, all the new GTM configurations you do in your GTM account, be it tags, macros, or rules, these get automatically synced up with your app without even changing a single line of code from within your app. Third step, initialize GTM instance. Okay, so once we have the GTM container file imported into our project, we need to create a GTM instance. Next, we need to get various configuration values from the container file. So in explanation to this point, let's say your app has many screens. Each of these screens have a particular background color, say blue. Now, due to some particular reason, you need to change the background color to red. So if you go via the first approach, you need to again tweak your app code and release a new version of the app, and then all those users who download the new app will get the new color, that is red in this case. Whereas if you have taken the GTM approach, you can simply change the configuration property or the color property in this case from your GTM macro, that is the earlier value which was configured to blue should now be changed to red, and after 12 hours when this GTM container is synced with your app, automatically the screen background color would change to red for all the new users as well as the existing users. Next point, pushing events and values to data layer. So all those who are familiar with GTM terminology would know about this data layer. Data layer is nothing but a placeholder of different values of your app. GTM can take the different values from this data layer and pass it on to GA. Thus, this creates a strong decoupling between two things. One is getting data from the app, and second, passing data from GTM via GTM to GA. Next step, previewing, debugging, and publishing. So once the tags, rules, and macros are configured within your GTM container, you can easily debug and test these tags without affecting the live users of your app. Once you are satisfied with the testing, you can push this version of GTM container to live version, and then that gets synced with the app and comes into effect after 12 hours. So this summarizes the implementation of mobile app tracking via GTM. So I explained you the two approaches that can be taken, but we recommend you to go via the GTM approach. The GTM approach has the following benefits. First, easily managed. So as I explained earlier, you can easily reconfigure your GTM tags, macros, and rules anytime without changing a single line of code in your app. Next, GTM provides a powerful debugging feature by which you can test the various features that you have implemented before making it live. Handle multiple accounts with permissions. So all those working with agencies can easily access multiple accounts of different clients along with special permissions set for each of these accounts. So for example, some of you might have just read-only access while others might have edit access as well. Mobile ready. The GTM version is mobile ready, thus making it simpler to fire GTM events and tags for mobile app. Include other tags. So apart from GA and UA, that is universal tags, you can include other tags as well. For example, AdWords conversion, double click, remarketing, and so on. Flexible tag firing. Let's say your app is outsourced to a third-party app development company. In this case, what can be done is the data layer for all possible values and all possible events can be set up initially, and later on, as and when required, we can pass only selective data to GA by configuring the corresponding GTM tags. So let's say your e-commerce data has following product attributes: size, color, and stock. So what we can do is, at the time of development, we can pass all these three values to the data layer. This does not send the data to GA at this step. Now, when the management team decides that we need to pass only color data to GA, what we can do is simply create a GTM tag that extracts color value from this data layer and pass it to GTM. Eventually, the color value would be available in GA reports. Let's say after few days you want to pass stock data instead of color. You can simply reconfigure your GTM tags and then you are good to go. So this tells us about the flexibility of tag firing. Okay, now coming on to the next point in our agenda is campaign tracking. So you might be aware of the benefits of campaign tracking. Broadly, there are two sets of campaigns that we run. One is ad campaigns and second is custom campaigns. So if you are running your ad campaigns through AdWords, Google Analytics for mobile app easily allows you to see these AdWords reports in your Google Analytics account. You can also analyze the performance of your custom campaigns. Additionally, you can also measure the success of these campaigns across device. So let's say you are running a campaign for a particular partner for Android as well as iOS. With the help of campaign tracking, you can figure out how that campaign is effective for each of the platforms, that is Android as well as iOS. Okay, so now we have understood the benefits of custom campaign tracking. Let's try and understand how to do custom campaign tracking. Step 1. Add UTM parameters for all the app download campaigns. So a campaign URL builder is readily available for tracking app download campaigns. You just have to enter the details: package name, source, medium, term, content, and then this gives you a campaign URL which you can use for running your campaigns. As you can see in this URL, the terms UTM source, UTM medium, UTM term, content, and campaign are present in the URL from the configuration we provided in the Google Play URL builder. Next, implement campaign parameters listeners in the app. Okay, to understand this, I would like to create an analogy between campaigns for web and campaigns for app. Let's say you run a campaign to drive traffic to a particular page of your website. When you append campaign parameters to that particular page URL, Google Analytics directly attributes these campaign parameters for that page in GA. But in case of app, the campaigns first drive the traffic to Google Play from where the app is installed, and once the app is downloaded and installed from Google Play, users start using the app from their devices. Thus, there is an intermediate step of Google Play or the platform distribution in case of app. In order to pass on the campaign parameters value to the app, you need to implement specific listeners in your app which can listen or which can understand these campaign values and pass it on to Google Analytics. Last step, analyze the data in mobile app sources report. So when you log in to your Google Analytics account, you see a app source report wherein you can see different source and mediums of your campaigns along with the new users, sessions, and average session duration from these campaigns. Thus, you can easily optimize and analyze your campaigns via this report. Okay, coming on to the next point in our agenda is mobile app uninstallation tracking. Benefits. Identify average user lifespan. So it is a good point of analysis to understand what is the average lifespan of a user. Let's say via your campaigns, you are able to significantly increase the number of app downloads and installs, but the user retention is not very high and users uninstall your app within 5 days or a week. With the help of uninstallation tracking, you can identify the average user lifespan and then take steps to improve your app so that users are retained for a longer time. Next, optimize marketing campaigns expenditure. If you are able to analyze the performance of various campaigns, you can easily optimize the expenditure on various campaigns by figuring out how much time are users retained when they come from a particular campaign. Next, gauge performance of different app versions. So let's say a new version of your app is released tomorrow, and suddenly the average user lifespan reduces drastically. So with the help of uninstallation tracking, you can figure out that a particular version of the app has some issues, some errors, some exceptions due to which users uninstall the app. Thus, different app versions can be tracked. Next, app compatibility across different devices. You can also understand how your app is working across different devices like iPhone, Samsung, and so on. Okay, now that we have understood the benefits of app uninstallation, let's try and understand what are the steps involved in doing so. So we at Tatvic have developed an uninstallation tracking library for Android. Here are the steps that we perform from the library. First, generate a unique ID for every device. So for every device in which the app is installed, we generate a unique ID. Next, we send the app name, app version, and visitor ID on these three events: first app launch, every app launch, and fixed time interval. So these data are passed on to our server in the form of logs. Thus, a log entry could be a particular app having version 2.1 and visitor ID v1 was launched on a particular timestamp. We collect all such logs and parse them to get the information of app name, app version, and visitor ID for each of these logs. Also, we periodically send these logs to our server irrespective of whether the app is being open or not by our users. By analyzing these logs, we can try to understand when a particular user has uninstalled the app. Okay, so from the logs that we send to our server, we can prepare a dashboard as I have demonstrated in this slide. You can analyze the performance of different campaigns in terms of app installation as well as uninstallation. You can analyze the performance of different devices, different app versions, and the uninstallation rate, like how many apps uninstallation happen for 5 days of usage, for a week, for a month, and so on. So this is a sample dashboard that we prepared for our client. As we can see from the graph that the uninstallation number are significantly higher compared to the installation number week by week. On analyzing this, we came to know that there needs to be some sort of improvement in our app so that users are retained. Okay, coming on to the next point, integrating Google Analytics with Play Store. Okay, let me explain you what are the benefits in integrating Google Analytics with Play Store. First, you get to know how much traffic is coming from different sources. Next, how much of this traffic actually land on to Play Store and view our app. Next, out of these app views, how many actual app installations take place. And next, out of these app installations, how many users actually launch your app and start using. Thus, this report is a sort of funnel which lets you know how users are performing at different life cycle, at different stages of app life cycle. You can even analyze this report by source, medium, and other parameters. Now I will walk you through the steps to integrate Google Analytics and Play Store. First, sign in to your Google Analytics account. Second, select a property from your account with which you want to integrate Google Play. Third, go to property settings of the property that you selected in step 2. Step 4, under Get Google Play Developer Console Data, you find a switch which is by default set to off. You need to toggle it to on. After doing so, you are presented with the various apps that are available in your Google Play account that you can integrate with your GA account. Select the app that you want to link and then click on Save. One important point to be noted here is same email address should have edit level access in GA as well as user account in Google Play. So for example, if a user abc@xyz.com has edit level access in GA as well as a user account in Google Play with the same email address, that is abc@xyz.com, only that user can do this integration. So this is an important step that needs to be kept in mind. Coming on to the last point in our agenda is things to check while implementing mobile app tracking. First of all, as explained earlier, we need to correctly install the GTM SDK for our app platform, that is Android or iOS. Next, we need to implement campaign tracking and correctly configure listeners in our app so that campaign data is transferred to G. Next, set up data layer for e-commerce. Next, track custom events that I explained you earlier, like how many times promotional code is entered, how many times cash on delivery is checked, and so on. Next, implement user ID. So user ID is a feature that allows you to track how a user journey takes place across devices, as I explained earlier. So a user can start his or her journey from a mobile device and ultimately land on tablet device and complete the transaction. Next, implement custom dimensions and metrics. So for example, if you want to pass some custom data in the form of custom dimension and metrics, you can do so by setting up the data layer correctly and extracting these values from data layer and passing on to GA using GTM. Next, configure all the tags, macros, and rules in GTM. Next, uninstallation tracking. So as installation is important, uninstallation tracking is equally important. So we need to ensure that uninstallation tracking is also implemented. So this sums up the entire webinar and all the points that I had to cover. Okay, so now I have few audience questions that I would like to answer. Okay, so first question is GTM SDK available for Windows? Currently, Google has released libraries for just Android and iOS. So no, at present there is no Windows library available. Next question, how to get the uninstall library? Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, uninstallation library is an in-house development done by our company. So if any of you out there are interested in using this service, please feel free to reach out to us and we shall guide you with the next steps.
Thank you everyone for joining us today for the webinar. It was a pleasure to have you here. Thank you everyone. Bye.
Bye.